We're starting to record. Good. Yes, I'm here with the lovely Robert.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on today, Karen. So, you know, I wanted to talk about the main topic with everything that matters to you. I may not know of all the different things that matter to you. I guess what I mean is the truth about whatever you want to know about previously believed was not true. And it's been surreal looking at some of the footage in videos that goes back in times, like from the realizing how much of that information that was false information. And so there's an information to look at from the past and now with the present, we're being overwhelmed with it. One of the challenges, I would say one of the biggest, determine what is the truth and what is the reality of whatever topic you want to look at. Stationary level Earth, or what many refer to as the flat Earth versus the globe Earth, is just a beautiful sunrise off the north end of South Carolina in the United States. It's just a beautiful day, and
nice sky.
It is so nice to see. What's that, Karen?
It's nice sky.
Oh yeah. It was a bit cooler. I believe the original footage was in November or December. So it has a whole different look. Typically lower humidity in that. And then the way the water gently comes in and stops and turns back around. And, you know, you can know for sure, not only with video proof, but with evidence in our day-to-day experience, proves that the Earth isn't spinning, wobbling, and gyrating in a bunch of contradictory motions. Now, there will be a lot of opposition to that assertion that there's no proof for a globe Earth, no proof for any movement. Typically, they may response, whether they're a human being or a computer program, according to what some call is about half of it's artificial intelligence, like a program chatbot. So they don't get tired of making fun of the energy to do so. Reasons why I encourage people to call me, I want to determine if they're actually, as best I could tell from are they even a human being or is it a chatbot? And so that's one thing. So in looking back in retrospect from the Kennedy assassination and the wars, the false pretense for wars of Vietnam and Desert Shield and all the different things, military actions.
Well, the media actions, you mean?
Yeah, yes, the system creates a false idea of what's actually going on and gets people fired up about spreading democracy or setting people free when in effect they're on innocent people in the midst of what's going on. And so that is just, it's atrocious. It is that, you know, there's no movement of the Earth. I can't, except for a couple of earthquakes I've been in, but that isn't the crust of the Earth moving a bit, vibrating and shaking a bit, but moving, that's fixed. And one of the biblical proclamation is the move in many places, and also that there's a structure up above the state, which is the firmament. You can't have a pressure without a structure. Different.
Yeah, that's a bit weird, that one, isn't it? We can just get it. We can just get it. No, there's no differentiation. Yeah. We're either in it or out of it, but there's no barrier now.
Yeah, you've got to have a barrier pressure differential, just like a pressurized can. Whether a soda can, there's pressure stored up in that.
Mind you, now they say, Robert, that the moon is in our atmosphere. How can that be?
I believe that it's very close, and the sun is very close.
Yes. It's their
explanation,
because it's supposed to be 260,000 miles away, but it's
not that far away. It's very close, and so the way that recognizing that the science, they'll make present a perspective that makes people that question their official narrative as science deniers or stupid people or conspiracy theorists. But the reality is there is a kaleidoscope of conspiracy theories to actually hide the true conspirators in what they're actually doing. So the system of control creates a lot of the ridiculous conspiracy theories. But there's things going on the nature of Earth, but it's the nature of truth and reality. There's an objective truth and observable. And then there are other things that it's virtually impossible to prove them. So how will we be able to? That's one of the challenges of truth, is that I could cooperate with what God created me to do. In fact, not just cooperate, wanting to find to do it, in the insight to recognize what He wants me to do. So a bit complicated, and I'm going to talk briefly, or maybe a little bit more at length, about my research library. If Google search, there may be many thousand results I've seen in results, and then within a few minutes down to several hundred. So I know that there's a lot of content out there. The reason put together. So my name is the main focal point to find content that Quiet Wars document, that I did a Facebook broadcast, a live stream. Okay, so the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document was a live Facebook that I did that was unlisted, uploaded it to YouTube. That video I keep towards the top of my playlist because it explains quite a bit of the dynamics of the situation that we're in, information, especially in circumstances. What I've done with the comments section of that video is added over 130 links to different platforms and content. So one of the things that you can do is put a hyperlink, and if it's congruent or complementary, I'll be happy to leave it up there. Provide a platform for the viewers on my activity. It's not that I delete, I'm not going to give a whole big platform to do that. We've got a whole bunch of misinformation and disinformation that we have to wade through to try and get to the truth of the matter. Especially with the current events of 2022, we've had a couple of years of very difficult, and I've had to disease and contagion and all of that. And so that I've had, even before this came up, did we even need that? And so the whole thinking behind that, I believe, is way that they create a plausible reason to have a laboratory like that. They really shouldn't have that kind of in this world. So, you know, there's the world supposedly says that we are not supposed to be using, but why are they out then? And then we've got billionaires that are supposedly helping humanity, and they're by putting toxins in the food, water, air, medicines, and frequencies, and then the information, paying for their favorable review by the mainstream veneer of trustworthiness, and in fact they should be locked up and crimes against humanity. Much of the activity that happened in Nazi Germany dealt with in the trials at Nuremberg. We have world today activity that's more response. I don't know that we'll see it in it. But then from the biblical standpoint and what the Bible proclaims, there will be a new heaven and a new earth. And then those that are, I would say, like the demon indwelling maybe a clone, those we won't have to deal with those anymore. They'll be spending an eternity in hell. That's a time that I'm looking forward to, is the new heaven and the new earth is going to have no more deception. And I'm looking forward to that, because it's painful for so many. And in the interim,
me too, Robert.
Yeah. It's hard to look at, isn't it?
It is.
What I've done with the playlist is I look at it kind of like there's not everybody, huge chunks of the truth, and then they may have the nature of dealing with different topics like black budget, government projects, above top secret. The leaders of the world government officially, like the President of the United States, for example, there's a lot of things that they're not deniability. That same dynamic goes with other countries, I understand. Yuri Bezmenov has talked about subversion. He's in quite a thing about how the system of control can corrupt the population of an area, a region. That yes, there's that, and then there's also the battle between good and evil, both. So that's kind of like the abbreviated version of it. Try challenge, because even Satan disguises of light. So when we look at the president, or they are actually actors. They're playing out a role. Many of them are deceivers. So even in the world wars, then that it looks like there's a battle, the souls of humanity. But then we also around the world in like now in the Soviet Union or Russia, and circumstances that go along with that, trying to do the reality when there's so much deception involved in all of that. The footage there's some of that, and that is apparently intentional to just get people to say, and that's deception, and it contradicts itself. That's why it would be, for me, I found out that peace with the fact that, it's unfortunate, yet I have a level of joy in the midst of the difficulty, which is, I believe, pretty surprising. I thought it would have been really that could allow me to have a lot of nice stuff and an easy lifestyle. Who wouldn't want that? I mean, we're up to that, found a way to either and they can do a lot of stuff, or they're born the real wealthy, like robber barons of the financial industry and energy over the educational systems, and created a system where they could continually harvesting the value of our lives as humanity. So that's part of the structure that we live in, so to speak. It's like a monopoly game, and they are basically in control of the creation and distribution of money, all of that. So, like the freedom of speech, the key factors that allows their reign of tyranny and terror, get people to be afraid, and then they convince them to do some own best interest. They just tricked them into buying an old jalopy like a used car salesman. It's like and that type of thing. Some people buy into that. They'll use clever representatives, scientists and astrophysicists and space fantasy programs and all of that, and I'm exposing it. So I think I have too much about God, and then there will be people that think I have too much about technology and too much of this and not enough of that. And I would just say, this information is there for people to explore and consider. And if somebody
what they don't
really
realise is actually wake anybody else up. They have to. Your channel has masses of information, and they have to go and do their own homework.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So they can and see. I make my phone available if somebody says, you've got so much there. What are you trying to say? Well, the main point is to seek the truth with all your heart. And then to, like in my case, and it's the way I believe it is for everybody, divine intervention is required to love and believe the truth, let alone find it. People believe a lot of things that are not true. I was one of them. Still some things that I believe that are not true. I'm just not aware of what they are because I don't know what I don't know or what you don't know. The main reality that this world is filled with so much deception, and the official story by those in control right now is largely overwhelmingly false. Whether it comes with the financial system is a huge amount of deception. The medical is filled with not only eugenics type activity that's going on, and it has been for a long time. One of the documentaries shows how water fluoridation that's put into some municipalities fluoridated. I believe that is as well. And I'm not sure of all the kind of the water, but even if they're not, if they're recirculating some of the wastewater and purifying it, so to speak, very unhealthy. So what I've done is eliminate as much of the toxins from my life as I can. And that includes bathing in reverse osmosis. Distilled water, I couldn't produce enough. I've got two systems. They're a couple $100 each, and they produce about 90 gallons each a day. I don't need that much a day. But what I end up doing is a full spoon of borax, which is boron. It has and it's a powerful electrolyte, kills body, and so does baking soda. I put a tablespoon of that in, and a tablespoon of magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salt. And those are all powerful electrolytes. One of the magnesium is it calms the nerves. So a lot of people with that, the reason why I started bathing in that is I found out that it helped with nerves and withdrawals and eased muscle pain. So I'm off of all farm for those or any other chemical, escape. Neurohacking, as it is called by some, it's like adding a chemical and or suppress another area of the brain. Drugs activate the dopamine receptor and just make people feel really, really good, even though they may be legal activity. The monkey on their back satisfied, it makes it all work out. And that's where we're looking at drug addiction, and I highly recommend that. I didn't pick myself up by 1982 until I actually was in 2014, is where the Holy Spirit, the true Creator, takes up residence in His children at some time, some point. Eternal beings having a temporary, and why because I'm on a mission from God. He wanted me to let people know that this whole situation, it's important. It matters for eternity. So one of the other things that envy the people that have more stuff, more time, more fun, apparently, it really is, I have a joy that it's based on God satisfying me for doing what He created me to do. So like the video that's in the background right now, that video is at the top of the playlist. I like to, it's beautiful, and it also deals with the topic of free will and destiny and fate. Basically, this world and the people who live in it, and we all have a purpose, and I believe it's important for us, and He's the best one to go to find out about that. It's just that the people that aren't interested in any of that, their destiny may not be one of His children. So it's kind of like a discovery process. People that care about the truth, that love the truth, even though it may be hard to look at. Video right now, can you see the video as it's playing right now, Karen? Are you still there, Karen?
Yes, I'm here.
Water?
It is. It hasn't actually changed too much in this picture so far.
Shooting across the
like
water
almost
with
like crepuscular.
Yeah, so the laser beam shooting across the top of the water, the waves that are there in a little shadow. That area where I was recording that tidal activity is
It's
very
going
small.
on top of each other.
Yeah, yeah. It is just fascinating to me. We can walk on the beach barefoot, also walking barefoot on the outside, or if it's too cold to do any of that, or to practice electrolytes, they're conductive. They cause the water to be conductive. And so I've got the way that this bathtub is, it's a composite tub with plastic plumbing. So there's no energy field, which is the ground. It's in my channel that deal with earthing or grounding, where we've got an electricity. The brain is the main focus of the activity of all of our muscle movement and activity. It regulates and also that our emotions that release either full hormones that can cause us the fight or flight response, that type of thing. So having an attitude belief that is a real peaceful way to deal with the turmoil in this world and the difficulties. Right in this spot right here where I was recording, about 100 feet, maybe struck by lightning. And that was about, 6 years ago. When I saw what I believe a test was before I was born again, I would have thought, and I remember it, God wants to see what I'm in, knows everything. He wanted I would do. And I believe according the Vietnamese surf fishing out in the ocean, and a storm came up, and I went to the beach on the motorcycle that day. If I would have tried to pack everything up and get on the motorcycle, I would have got really wet. Just staying there holding lightning rod umbrella, everything was pretty lightning around, and I was barefoot on the sand right next to that, and I knew there was lightning, and I believed that God wanted me to keep on recording, and He did, so I did, and the hashtag struck by lightning, and with the bowl that the fishermen were, they felt it. You could see one of them was shaking it to go through the reel. I felt it go through my body, and it cracked my iPhone, the glass on my iPhone, and out of it, it was dead. And God was protecting me, and if He wanted to take me home, that was fine. From dying, I had more of a purpose that He wanted to live out through me here. So that approached this with a lot of enthusiasm, and I'm not afraid of the different things that the soul and of humanity and the enemy of to do to me, perhaps, that God allows him to. So that's where I have spiritual armor. I have protection, and that's why I encourage all your heart, because it matters for eternity. Even though it's handy because the supply chain and distribution in some areas more than others, and we may see it with a crashing of the, like Klaus Schwab was talking about, that cyber attack with a mere inconvenience, his words exactly. And so they actually are in control of because it's the money that control politically that money has purchased, to have extra practical provisions on hand, whatever you can. I went out the other day and got some extra, well, not extra pet food for my kitties here, and so one of the things is that these going up exponentially. Like a lot of the healthy fruits and vegetables that I regularly eat are up over 30%.
Wow.
So that's going to make things seem Yeah, is starvation will cause people to do some pretty drastic. You can pre-purchase food that and items that you would like to have on hand. That makes sense. That's we're in this world. With this too is we may see an interruption in the flow of electricity, the internet, cellular, that type of thing, where pockets of blackouts or maybe very large areas of the world that have lost communication or energy systems. So there's a whole area of suppressed technology, suppressed energy systems. We wouldn't need to run on petroleum for fuel and heating and transportation.
It could have just been electric.
Yeah, so the electricity and a massive amount of energy in the ether, in the atmosphere around us. And there's antiquitech, like that electricity from the energy field around the Earth. So yeah, and then the water as well. Their Stanley Meyer. I've got many hours of video on my channel that show how he was able to get huge amounts of energy from water. So it can be molecular disassociated low energy use, and then that can go through a fuel cell and actually create electricity, a lot of electricity, and you can make lots of those magnets to put those in a electric motor. But you see, the big money has not wanted that to happen. Got videos that explain that. Like Stephen Greer has done a lot with talking about the disclosure of the black budget projects and energy systems, and yet he's still showing the globalization. But he's showing some things about the suppressed information at above top secret, and so I'm going to have on a comment thread, even though people may see things different, our world not being a globe, that it's a motionless plane, I'll put a comment in a thread like amazing analysis deployed worldwide through my deep learning artificial intelligence, and then I'll put, as a reply to the comment, I'll put the play. I continue to get new subscribers, and on Twitter I'm being followed by people that are artificial intelligence and world government. So what I did with that, with my Twitter account, was I took my research library main playlist. It's like a truth sampler, 1,000 views of that playlist. I sent it to Davos, to Klaus Schwab, to Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Barack Obama and Al Gore and of Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royce and Ferrari and medical and energy and financial industrial companies. I'll just get on, it might be a rainy day, and I'll hop on Twitter and I'll go to somebody like Elon Musk. He's following 113 people. Well, I follow all of those people, and then I tweet to some of those, and I'll tweet to him and some of his buddies and the Clinton Foundation. Like, I'm not a fan of a lot of what these are. There are those that will see that activity of my playlist. They may look at it and go, huh, God. And that's kind of how I got here. I was exposed to, I had a curiosity for a long time from when I was a boy. And as my earliest memories are wanting to know why, that was just the nature of how I was. Well, what I found out is that a lot of people I trusted were lying to me. They were deceiving. And then by the very nature of it, the deceived people, those that have been bamboozled, perpetuate the deception and want to be told that that's what they're doing. So they're going to have a hard time realizing that a lot of their life has been based on a lie. A lot of their beliefs and activity have been based on false information, that they've been tricked, that they've been bamboozled. So the human nature doesn't want to acknowledge that. that's where that statement that I made, I believe it's only by God, let alone find it. It's one thing to have the truth right in front of you and not be able to perceptional veil that's in front of most people. They have a perspective that's based on something that is not, although they believe it to be true. So that's dealing with a computer program that's completely a piece of software. A human being that's buying their own donuts and coffee, they can be programmed too. And they can be completely bamboozled and work at a university or work for a television. Oh my gosh, well, they don't want their big paying job. They'll have to figure out what else to do to make a living, even if they're allowed to live, if they start talking and find out exists. So that's where, rather than having that somebody would turn into the newspaper, that's not going to protect me. God is going to protect me, and I'm going to be able to find out, because people are going to affect their life and their eternity. And so how will they know about those different topics, if somebody doesn't tell them or make it available to them? So that's how I got here. I wanted to know, and that wanting to know took on epic proportions when I was given to see and ears to hear a whole bunch more, a whole lot of the truth that exists all around us. So thinking with giving a lot of preference towards the truth and a desire to know, more of a receiver than a repository. It isn't just my accumulation that went into my playlist. It was being in my research library. It's being directed by God to find what he wants me to see and then to share where I can. So I'm exposing the space fantasy of Elon Musk, and yet I retweet and quote tweet some of his tweets. I want him to see that I'm telling on him. I'd like to see him come clean with that. I know that there's technology.
So would we.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, he just bought the single-held Twitter now because he wants there to be free speech is the foundation of democracy. And I would say, well, that's a big portion of that. Obviously, with free speech, there's going to be.
I'd rather he didn't have.
What's that?
I'd rather he didn't have it, though.
Well, it would be nice to see if he were to, for example, Starlink is currently delivering. He's got a lot of subscribers. Barack Obama had over 131 million. The numbers actually are. How could I know? So there's the category of information that is, how can I know that for sure? So here's one of the other things, like Kathy Wood, that's with Ark Invest. Ark talks brilliantly on how is part of a long view of investing and why why disruptive technology is so controversial. A lot of her information is based on numbers, and she talks about that. Would be one of my questions when they say survey error. Oh, really? How would they even know that? So when numbers, where did the numbers come from? Apparently, we were able to get somebody country that looks like he should have been put out to pasture a long time ago. Biden is ridiculous, but are selected, not elected. So I would like to see in the activity of Twitter. I've been tweeting to him for years. And it's not just me talking about stuff. Some of those videos had millions and millions of views, but the channel was taken down. My channel is because of God's providence, and he leads me to do things in a different way. If I try and share some of the links that are in for Quiet Wars, Facebook, Twitter won't allow me to share them. Something went wrong. Yeah. Artificial kidding. We're not letting that here. So I'll see doing what I'm doing. So apparently part of the technology that they're talking about with that is to transfer consciousness from a human being into computers, and apparently so there's the sentient worlds and the integrated parts quantum computer network, D-Wave computers, Watson, CERN. So there's technology that's in effect right now that can affect people's mood, thoughts, beliefs, preferences, even in gendering and transgendering and all of that. And then there's chemicals that go into the food, water, air, electron dispersal, electronics, as in they can directly affect the perception people have of reality. So when Elon says that, that he believes we live in a simulation, and he said well, what I'm with that is that each person has a perception of what they believe we have through our eyes and ears and our intellect to try and determine what the heck is going on here. I know in the last couple of any time before, to me, like we were living in a Twilight Zone episode. You've seen that movie, right? Twilight Zone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when we had nurses twerking on TikTok, I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
And then the different numbers that were being told about outbreaks, cases, and deaths, and deaths a particular, that wasn't the actual reason they died, and with the numbers. That's why I was saying even that people use, they cherry pick numbers quite often that project a perception that they want people to believe. So, like, for example, Elon has been very successful in being involved in making statements that with Bitcoin, Doge, Tesla, and more. How fortunate for him. How fortunate for him.
Yeah, he's a multi-millionaire now.
Yeah, with BlackRock and Vanguard investment owns so much of the world's stuff. And then there's the royalty, the crown, and how much is in control, is in their control as well. And so here's where I go with that. What the Bible says, and if you gain the whole world and look at alternative options for energy and propulsion systems and exposing a space fantasy and letting them know the cosmic Big Bang, Elon, and for all the people that think they're going to just upload their consciousness to the cloud and live forever, hello, there's a fire coming, not a flood, and it's going to destroy this earth, and there's going to be a new earth, and there's going to be a hell. Children and the fallen angels are going to be eternity, because the truth matters. The more important the question, an accurate answer is. It's one, my mom would say, Bobby, did you? And I knew she knew, so I would say, yeah, I did. She would swirl on the topping looked a little bit different. I would just kind of like, there's an analogy here, but I would take my finger and I skimmed some chocolate off of the top. And a system where most of humanity is a slave to that system. I'm not one of those slaves. I'm a slave, a bond slave to Christ by me to even make that choice or to want to have that choice that I was created to do.
You are, Robert. Robert, can I just say, being a party pooper...
Time, huh?
I know, it's gone very quickly, isn't it?
It did. Well, I want to thank you. You call any time of the day or night. My phone number, I'm on WhatsApp and Messenger, Facebook. If you put the hashtag in my name, you can see all that. And you can send me links or put links in the comments on videos or send them to me so that I can evaluate if I would like to add that to my research library. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we say goodbye, Karen?
Oh, it's always nice having a listen to our Robert. So
hey,
thank
so
you very much for that, Robert.
Karen, thank you.
Bye for afterwards. So for the hangout, even if it's a little bit short because I've got to go and do something.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Karen.
Oh, and thank you, chat room. To everyone. And Robert.
All right, Karen. Okay.
Cool. Don't go anywhere, Robert, just for a moment. Anyway, from us, it's goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.